To kickstart this morning, I'm going to call upon stage two wonderful gentlemen, soldiers of our country who will come and have this conversation and dialogue with all of us here. Our first guest is someone with nearly 40 years of experience in the service. Our guest has held key positions including Commander of Skinner's Horse, GOC of a Rashtriya Rifles Force, Director General at the Ministry of Defense, currently serving as the General Officer Commanding-in-Chief of the Southern Command. We are honored to welcome Lieutenant General Dhiraj Seth. You know, whenever I see our men in the forces, background score apne aap hi bach jata hai. There's automatically goose flesh on the hand and one feels so proud of the nation we all belong to, India, Bharat. Our next guest for the morning session is a distinguished IAF officer who revolutionized the Hawk Advanced Jet Trainers fleet's maintenance and operations. Our guest has been the force to modernize and upgrade the Indian Air Force's operations training pedagogies. There are only so many air marshals in the Indian Air Force, and we are honored to host air officers in charge, maintenance, air headquarters, Air Marshal C.R. Mohan. Growing up, were there any films or were there any inspirational films, war films, which really inspired you to take up the forces?
Well, if I can take that on, I don't think I required films because I'm a second generation officer in the Indian Army.
Truly wonderful.
So my father also served the Indian Army for over 40 years. He was a paratrooper, saw action from 1961, Goa operations to the Indo-China War, the two wars with Pakistan. So I've actually grown up hearing all those stories that he had to tell us. So I think it was that package which was sort of dealt to us on a very regular basis was motivation enough to join the forces.
Wonderful, sir. Having said that, is there any film or piece of cinema which you thought accurately represented what the forces do for our country?
I thought Border was good.
Border was good?
Border depicted the Battle of Longewala well.
Correct.
And likewise, I think LOC also did a great job on the war in Kargil.
So wonderful to hear that, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. So over to you. What inspired you to take up the forces?
Let me tell you the truth. My mom is an ex-Air Force officer.
Wow.
Yeah, she joined the Air Force as a single mom. I lost my dad when he was very young. So I never wanted to join the armed forces. I didn't know anything about it. In my final year in engineering, the moment I got selected for Air Force, she would come into my room and tear every application that was there. She said one big mistake that I did was to leave the Air Force. And even today, when I reached 20 years of service, I told my mom, is it okay if I leave the Air Force? One slap. So that's my motivation to be in the Air Force.
So wonderful. Both second generation soldiers. We're so proud to have you here, sir. So you know, they say in the army that leaders are not born, leaders are made. You know, over the last 4 days, incredible 4 days, all these young minds have had. They've interacted with a lot of leaders from various fields, you know, playing various national, international figures and analyzing, debating in their committees, right? And taking on from there, I wanted to ask you, so with you first, discipline is a huge cornerstone of the military, right? How does
one inculcate that at this ripe young age? And how does, I feel, the army approach leadership? You know, and is there a confluence to these two things? And how can these young minds sort of approach the same leadership at this young age?
Okay, I'll take on your second part first,
So,
because I think discipline will flow out of what I have to say. As far as these boys and girls are concerned, I want to make a very conscious point to you all that you may have leadership attributes across various domains and various walks of life, but there is something different that army leadership is all about. And army leadership is actually different because you're dealing with men. You're dealing with men who you're going to lead into battle. It's leadership under fire. You're going to lead them to levels of motivation which will finally even end up in their sacrificing their lives. So it is that kind of trust that you need to develop between the leader and the led, the soldier and his leader. And therefore, the one very important thing which stands out is that you need to lead by example. You need to do it yourself. You need to be right in front. If you're not there in front, that trust is never going to get formed between you and the soldier. And that is something which is very important and which I'm sure, I don't know how initiated you are into the recent battles that our country has fought. But I can only tell you one thing, if I can give you a small example. If you take your mind to these treacherous heights, say of Kargil or any such place, and there is an infantry assault that has to go through. So I'm just trying to magnify the leader's role. You know, this entire group which is going to assault and attack a particular enemy position takes up a forming up place position wherein they take to ground. That means they all take ground, planning to now attack this feature. Now it is here, and this is all happening under fire. It is here when that leader gets up. They're all lying down, taking position, but now is the time. It is the HR. The HR is the appointed hour when the attack has to go in. And it is that raw courage, it is that leadership in that leader who now rises from the ground in the face of enemy bullets and says, "Follow me." And if he does, and if he fails to do that, let me tell you, the entire lot, that entire force which was there will freeze and stick to the ground. So that is what the leadership as far as the army is all about. And having said that, you need to inculcate this. So bringing on to the aspect of, you spoke of discipline, I'll just take a minute on that. Basically, in my view, this trust needs to be built.
Correct,
and this trust is built over three facets, three constituents. One is your character, second is your competence, and the third is your commitment. So the fact as far as character is concerned, you have to come across to the lead that you are the right guy, you are the honest person, you're going to lead them well, you're going to be honest about everything. So everything that goes into making your character, including discipline. So I'll cover discipline is
Absolutely.
just one of the many facets that you need to have to build that character. It's the basic foundation. Secondly, post the foundation is you gain your competence, and you gain your competence as you move along. The competence that I had 40 years back was different from the competence that I need today to lead the Southern Army of the Indian Army. So you deal and lead with that kind of competence, and there's nothing other than commitment, which is the final one. You got to be committed to what needs to be done. If it has to be done, it got to be done. And you have to find ways and means to do that. So all these three in my mind are together constituents which build that very important trust between the soldier and the leader. And that's all important.
Character, competence, and commitment. So you've given us the 3 C's.
The 3 C's, that's it.
The
You
3
could
C's of life.
Summarize it as 3 C's of military leadership.
So wonderful. I'm going to take this back. 3 C's of military leadership. And I hope all of us can really imbibe this and rethink and think about these words Commander Sheth has just shared with us. Sir, I wanted to ask you, so besides students, we have many educators with us today, right? And many students here innately have leadership qualities. Some may not show them very early on. How would you recommend these educators to create spaces or follow any methodologies which can inculcate strong leadership in all these young minds which sit here today amidst us?
It's a very deep question, I must say. Are you all prepared for the answer? In my experience, everybody can be a leader.
Everybody can be a leader.
Yes, every one of you can be a leader. That's my experience. And there is a saying which I learned as a very young boy, two sayings actually, which I would like to leave with you. The first is what my grandfather told me. Grandson, it's good to be smart, but it's smarter to be good. So we've been extremely smart. We have dug up every oil well in the world. We've burnt every carbon credit that's available to us. We made the maximum profit. We've done extremely well. But we're heading towards destruction. So we've been very smart. I think our future leaders need to be good as well. They need to be smart, but they need to be good as well. The second thing that struck to me from a very young age is that the body works well if it's used, and the mind works well if it's kept quiet. I think keeping the mind quiet has been the biggest challenge of my leadership. You're given so many names, Marshal, this post and that post, and you are a resident of X location, you're from this state, you're from that country. These small, innocuous statements that are told to you throughout your life become your mind. And when you see the world through this prism, you never see the world the way it is. The more you can remove identities from yourself, the better you can see the world. The better you can see the world, the better leader you are. That's mine.
Truly wonderful. Truly wonderful. In fact, this reminds me of what Baman sir shared last evening. He said, let not the perks of the job take away from the joy of the job. Right? And so truly, beautifully echoed. It's also what Gurudev shared last evening about mastering the mind, about meditation. Now, I feel like today's generation, this possibly is the greatest challenge, where we have so much mental chatter because we are dealing with so much clutter around us. There is social media, there's the digital world, there is us all second guessing ourselves, what the world thinks about us, but to really be able to calm your mind down and make the body work, right? So, very pertinent points. Thank you so much.
And the intellect is a muscle. It's part of your body. It'll just work.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. Beautiful point shared there, sir. I wanted to ask you, Commander Sheth, that, they say that we before the I, or as Indian Army's motto goes, service before self. We're noticing how with the generation changing and the world evolving, a lot of us today, youngsters, we're looking more inwards. Our world is becoming lonelier. The world is like we have more real friends than real life friends, right? In some ways, the concept of service is diminishing and it's becoming more self-centered. I'm not generalizing, but I would say this is slowly beginning to happen, and I can see it across generations. In such an environment, how does one encourage young minds, young people, to be more outward looking, to see the we before the I, to see the service before the self?
It's a very good question, and I hope you're all focusing here, you are here with me, because I think this is something absolutely essential. Because the way I look at it, we are all, when we are born or we grow up, I comes naturally to us. The I of everything. And what is important is to put the we before the I, as stated by Nakul. Now, as far as I'm concerned, we've grown up with it. In fact, service before self, like you said, was our very motto at the National Defense Academy. When we were all of 16 years old, that was something that we really learned it, I could also say the hard way. So, because I said it is something that doesn't come naturally to you to look after the we. So you have to work towards it. There are no easy solutions to it. If I say that by just speaking and talking about it, it's going to happen, no, it's not going to happen. You need to work upon, you need to feel that the team is more important than you. You have to stop thinking about that it is all about you or all about me. It is about the team. You have to look after the successes of the team. And as a team leader, positively, when the team succeeds, the success is yours. But more importantly, when the team fails, the failure is 100% yours. And you need to take that upon in the right spirit, because that is something very important, rather than starting to play the blame game, which is the easiest thing to do. Looking behind your shoulders, looking in front as to who did it all. And that is something very important. And if there is some time, I wish to just highlight.
Absolutely, sir.
The very important facet as far as we and I is concerned, which is something very essential in leaders, is to be able to accept responsibility. When you take a critical decision for the team, then whatever thereafter happens, it is you to carry it on your shoulders. And in fact, I'll take a small example because I have an international audience here. I'll take your minds to World War II. For all those who love or have gone through the World War series, this is World War II, and I'm referring to the 6th of June 1944, the Normandy landings, the biggest landings in the history of the world, wherein about 150,000 troops through amphibious or through airborne mode were landed in the north of France in the 5 beaches of Normandy. And I am referring to the Allied forces. They were the Allied forces which landed, and their commander was one General Eisenhower. And for this operation, he was responsible to the Prime Minister of England, then Mr. Churchill. Now, this was 6th of June, and this decision of launching this operation was going to be his, but all his advisors, because of various weather and tidal conditions, told him, do not launch, let's delay by 14 days. But Eisenhower took that decision in his wisdom. But for the point I am making, he took that critical decision, but after taking that decision that we would launch on 6th of June, he scribbled on a piece of paper, put it in an envelope, that piece of paper, and marked it for Mr. Churchill to be only opened on the afternoon of 6th of June. And what he wrote was something what I would like you all to inculcate. What he wrote to Prime Minister Churchill was that to launch this Operation Overlord, as it was known as, has been mine. In case of success, we shall see, but in the event of failure of the operation, I accept full responsibility of this action of mine. So that is something which is so important for you all as young leaders. Be with the team and shoulder the good, the bad, and the ugly of the team. And that is so important. Like I said, it is not a muscle that you're born with. You have to work upon that muscle. It's a muscle which is going to pull you, it's going to push you for putting the we before the I. And that's all I thought I would like to share with you all.
Truly wonderful, sir. What a beautiful story anecdote for service before self and taking complete responsibility. I feel if all of us can go back from these 4 days just remembering that, taking full responsibility and being fully, the 3 C's sir spoke about, what sir spoke about, calming your mind. And I feel that truly is so important in the day and age of social media where all of us are always comparing ourselves. I feel to be able to really calm your mind down and get your physical muscles working is what I take back. Sir, I also wanted to ask you was, this is also, a time when, my father always tells me that back in the day, you would have to work so hard, and today, it's a far more democratic world. Things have opened up because of social media. You could be sitting in any part of the country and now have an opening. There are no gatekeepers. which also means instant gratification. It's easier to find success early. Vis-a-vis, what the defense really pays attention on is hard work, discipline. How does one inculcate in a world where things might be at the click of a button? How do we still go back to the age-old conventional wisdom of putting in the hours, putting in the man/woman hours, we may choose to call today, we should call today, of putting in the rigor, of building the competence, like Sir said, How does one fight that when there is such easy gratification available on the web for all of these young minds here?
I don't agree with the characterization of this generation as if it's a social media generation. I think the people who have not yet learned to handle social media are people of our generation. I think they're all fantastic in dealing with it.
They are.
They know that when they're flipping through reels, the one who's flipping through is the product. And you are actually, you are being sold. I think they know it far better than you're from that generation, actually, I would say. But the most important thing today is social media is not new. We had satellite TV before this. When satellite TV came in the early 90s, all of us used to sit and watch those serials for hours together. What you're doing with reels today, we were doing it in the early 90s. When then you started seeing internet, we were doing exactly the same thing. We were playing video games on the internet for hours together. And we used to pull our children out, who are now very grown up. I don't think it's any different. There's always a business out there which is trying to capture people on their devices. The only thing that's changed is that the mobile phone has become ubiquitous. Now it's available in your pocket. So I've got a trick which I would like to tell you in case you're suffering from addiction of reels. Just make it inconvenient. Delete it from your phone. If you want Instagram reels or YouTube reels, watch it on your computer. Just make it inconvenient. I really want, I'm sure most of you would know about it, each one of you to read the book Atomic Habits.
Absolutely beautiful book, sir.
It's a very, very interesting book. It's a must-read book. And that book teaches you how painlessly you can get away from all the bad habits that you want to get away from. You are having too much to drink, there's a way to get away from it. You are smoking, you can get away from it. You are on social media, you can get away from it. So I want to tell you that please read the book Atomic Habits. And it made a big difference to my life. It will make a big difference to your life.
So wonderful, sir. Absolutely phenomenal recommendation there. Phenomenal recommendation there, sir. And you clearly showed what true leadership is by taking the responsibility away from this generation and quickly saying that we also went through the same. And that is leadership in action. I see that, sir. And in our defense, I'd like to say I'm right in the middle of this generation, and I can see that the authenticity and truth this generation has is incomparable. I don't think our earlier generations had that. They can smell truth, they can smell dishonesty, and they can say it as it is without the fear of superiority or hierarchy. And that is truly wonderful, right? So, thank you. So in conclusion, I'd like to, in fact, I had a bunch of questions, but I'm going to skip right to what I'm really interested in. Is, Commander State, when you were, your early days, as a soldier in the Indian Army, was there a particular leader or a particular incident or a war situation which has left an indelible mark in your life, and what was that experience?
Well, that's a difficult one because, our formative years are full of experiences that you actually have with every passing day, literally, because something new and some new challenge is always coming up. But what I'd like to basically, what has left an imprint in my mind was, just for the benefit of everyone, I'm basically a tank man. That is, I joined the Indian Armored Corps, that is the tank regiments. So primarily my competence lies in driving a tank or even firing a tank. And the one thing that when I joined, we have something called as my commanding officer, who actually guides you through these spaces. He told me one thing, that it takes a lifetime to become a fully accomplished tank commander. So I don't know, once again, it'll take me time to explain as to what a tank commander is all about, because that's where the competence comes in. So you have to keep striving. You need to drive the tank better than any other soldier in that unit. You need to fire the gun of the tank better than any gunner in the unit. So it is that competence, and I saw that in that commanding officer of mine. I found him fully accomplished in every facet which was required to be a complete tank man. And that was the day I decided that I need to actually tick the right boxes, whether it was acquiring technical skills, tactical skills, basically how to lead a tank, or rather command a tank and lead tank squadrons into battle. Well, it has held me in good stead. I started my life and my career as a tank commander of a single tank, grew on to commanding 14 tanks, on to 45 tanks, onto a brigade of tanks, 150 tanks. Finally, I commanded a strike corps with over 1,000 tanks, which has the capability today to pierce the heart of the adversary, move 100 kilometers into Pakistan, and actually impose our nation's will onto the adversary. So it was that motivation of my first CO which drove me all these years to make it happen. And I am here sitting in front of you today commanding the Southern Army, which is the largest army of the Indian Army, and we are fully poised to take on any mission that may be given to the Indian Army and make it happen for our country.
Truly wonderful, sir. Truly wonderful. I'm so sure your first CEO will be so proud of you, and I'm sure he would believe you've made a very fine tank man, sir. And I've noticed how all these answers go back to his first answer, which was character, commitment, and competence, right? Everything ties in, and which is the beauty of everything you're sharing, both of you gentlemen are sharing on this podium. Sir, I wanted to ask you in concluding, Viksit Bharat, as we say, towards our 100th birthday, 100th Independence Day will be led by these young minds, these young leaders. What are your hopes and aspirations for all these young minds sitting here? And what is that one thing they can take away from the Indian Armed Forces?
I'll address the first part.
Sure, sir.
Right? I think each one of you who are sitting in the back, obviously, must be aware that we all came from the same tribe in Africa. If you go back 10,000 generations, any two of you sitting in this room or anywhere in the world, your ancestors will be first cousins. Well, I hope you know this. Any two of you in this room or in this world, 10,000 generations is all that it takes for your ancestors to be first cousins. The most important thing to remember is that we are not individuals. We are a human organization or a human organism. Think of yourself as a cell which is part of this organism. We think of ourselves as a cell which is part of the armed forces. We are part of the armed forces. We have got multiple jobs to do. We will do it together. We'll defend the nation. So that's the way we think about it. But I think your generation should think that you're part of the human organism, that you are just a small speck in the entire human race. Today, we have mastered the art of making our lives miserable. We have mastered that art of exploiting each other. We have mastered the art of being smart. Your generation, I hope, will master the art of also being good.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I just want to add something on Viksit
Please, sir, please, sir, please.
No,
go
I
ahead.
thought I just wanted to add something on Viksit Bharat because one has been hearing ever since one has been part of this lovely event since last evening,
Right, sir.
and everyone has been talking about Viksit Bharat, and it is the buzzword as far as India is concerned. Everyone has given a whole lot of advice as to how should we propel ourselves towards becoming Viksit Bharat. I just want to leave one thought with you, and I think that would be perhaps in keeping with what the I.I.M.U.N is all about. In our quest to become Viksit, don't leave Bharat behind. Don't leave Bharat, our culture and our values behind. Because the moment you detach yourself from those values of Bharat, the Viksit will start becoming a question mark. So as far as Viksit Bharat is concerned, move Bharat alongside all our quests to becoming Viksit. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. Some wonderful gems shared by the both of you this morning. We're so thankful for your time. Thank you for making it. From all of us at I.I.M.U.N and all the young minds here, we're so honored to have the both of you.